As of May 2026, Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks are now just 8 wins away from doing something this franchise hasn't done in over 50 years, winning an NBA championship. What makes this whole run feel even more unreal is how badly they've been crushing teams along the way. Even some of the legendary Knicks teams from decades ago never put together numbers like this. They blew a shocking 47-point halftime lead against Atlanta, the biggest halftime lead ever seen in NBA playoff history, and somehow still bounced right back like nothing happened.
He knows how to score. He's mastered the art of scoring, and what I always like to say is that you have to understand defense if you want to be an effective scorer. And he understands that very well. So he controls his defender and he gets to the spots that he wants to get to score his basket.
Then they stormed through Philly with zero hesitation and completed their first playoff sweep in a 7-game series since 1999. On top of that, the Knicks also tied the NBA playoff record for most three-pointers made in a postseason game. And honestly, the scary part is how calm and confident they look while doing all of it. Through 10 playoff games, New York has been beating opponents by nearly 20 points a night. If they keep rolling at this pace, people might seriously start calling this the greatest postseason run the NBA has ever seen. Meanwhile, over in Dallas, everything looks completely upside down. The Mavericks just wrapped up a rough 26-56 season, finished 12th in the Western Conference, and now they're stuck without Luka Doncic and without Jalen Brunson too. When Mark Cuban sold the Mavericks, he later admitted there was real regret behind the decision. At first, the Knicks rising to the top and the Mavericks crashing down look like two separate stories. But once you dig deeper, they connect directly to the exact same mistake. A lot of fans blame 2022 when Dallas let Brunson walk away as the moment everything fell apart. But the truth is, the problem actually started way earlier, back in 2018. And this is where the story gets crazy. Mark Cuban and the Mavericks didn't overlook Brunson just once. They reportedly missed on him 3 different times. And that final mistake helped build the Knicks team that's now dangerously close to ending New York's 53-year championship drought. Before the contract drama everybody talks about, you have to go all the way back to draft night in 2018 because it explains exactly how Dallas viewed Brunson from the start. The hesitation was already there before he even played a single NBA game. That night, the Mavericks entered the draft holding the 5th overall pick in the first round and the 33rd pick near the top of the second round. And at the top of the board, they already knew exactly who they wanted. Inside the Mavericks organization, there reportedly wasn't much debate about Luka Doncic. The key people in the building believed he was the best international prospect available. Mark Cuban saw it. General manager Donnie Nelson saw it. Veteran scout Kevin Stackhouse believed it too. Dallas made an aggressive trade with Atlanta, moving from the 5th pick up to the 3rd pick, and the decision was locked in. Luka Doncic was going to Dallas. But what nobody realized at the time was that the Mavericks were also sitting right in front of another future star in that same draft. And the wild part is it almost fell apart before it even started. Late in the first round and moving into the second, Dallas was back on the clock with the 33rd overall pick. Donnie Nelson reportedly looked over at scout Kevin Stackhouse and asked him who he wanted. Stackhouse already had his answer ready. He ranked Jalen Brunson 19th overall on his personal draft board and believed Brunson was clearly a first-round talent. So once Brunson somehow slipped into the second round, Stackhouse started pushing hard for Dallas to grab him immediately. But here's where things got messy. Almost nobody else in the room seemed fully sold on Brunson. Head coach Rick Carlisle reportedly didn't want another point guard added to the roster. Carlisle was already focused on giving Yogi Ferrell a bigger role after Ferrell showed flashes during his rookie season. And Mark Cuban reportedly didn't even need to say much out loud. According to Kevin Stackhouse, Cuban slowly shook his head from side to side, and everybody in the room instantly understood what that meant. Interest in Brunson started fading fast while the clock kept ticking down. Dallas was suddenly inches away from making its first huge mistake with Jalen Brunson. Then the entire conversation changed out of nowhere. The team psychologist reportedly stepped in and backed up Stackhouse's argument. His reported words were, "We need more guys like Brunson around here. We need some character and some balls on this team." That statement completely shifted the energy in the room. Dallas finally made the decision. With the 33rd pick in the 2018 NBA draft, the Mavericks selected Jalen Brunson. Looking back now, Mark Cuban's hesitation about Jalen Brunson suddenly makes a lot more sense. Years later, Cuban revealed part of Brunson's original scouting report, and it wasn't exactly glowing. The report described him as a winner, but also called him a little chubby and not super athletic. In today's NBA, comments like that can seriously hurt a player's draft stock fast. That's a huge reason Brunson almost slipped away completely, and why Dallas only picked him after one scout kept fighting for him while another staff member stepped in at the last second to back the move. Over the next 4 years, that draft decision quietly turned into one of the biggest steals from the entire 2018 draft class. Jalen Brunson became the best second-round value from that draft and one of the strongest second-round picks of the past decade. But drafting him was never the hardest part for Dallas. Keeping him is where the whole situation completely collapsed. This is where a lot of fans get the story twisted. It wasn't really about Brunson choosing New York over Dallas. The bigger truth is Dallas slowly made decision after decision that pushed him away, even while Brunson reportedly wanted to stay with the Mavericks. Go back to the 2021 season. Brunson had already been improving every single year, but that season everything started clicking on another level. He put up career highs in points, rebounds, and assists, while proving he could thrive next to Luka Doncic on a playoff team. After that breakout season, Brunson became eligible for a 4-year rookie extension worth up to $55 million. For most teams, that would have been viewed as a safe and manageable deal. But behind the scenes, Dallas reportedly believed Brunson wouldn't attract a massive free agent market. The Mavericks assumed his value would probably land somewhere around 4 years and $45 million instead. That gamble ended up turning into a disaster for the franchise. And what makes it even worse is Dallas had multiple chances to fix the problem before it exploded. Before the 2021-22 season even started, Brunson's camp reportedly made things very clear through his father. If the extension wasn't offered before opening night, there would be no negotiations once the season began. Then the season tipped off, and Brunson immediately took another leap. When Luka Doncic missed time, Brunson stepped up in a huge way and helped keep Dallas afloat. He earned a full-time starting role and showed everybody he was way more than just a bench scorer or sixth-man option. By early January, Brunson's camp reportedly made one more push to stay in Dallas. They returned to the Mavericks and let the front office know he would still accept the extension if it was offered immediately. And somehow Dallas hesitated again. Then another opportunity appeared before the trade deadline. Through Brunson's agent, Aaron Mintz, the Mavericks were reportedly informed that if they created enough cap flexibility, they could renegotiate and extend Brunson right away. Once again, Dallas chose not to move on it. According to Mark Cuban, internal messages sent to GM Nico Harrison reportedly included comments like, "We aren't going to make a decision based on what Aaron says his dad wants in July." That mindset ended up backfiring badly. The Mavericks waited too long, and their patience completely blew up in their faces. After the trade deadline finally passed, Dallas offered the exact same 4-year, $55 million extension that Brunson had reportedly been willing to sign months earlier, before his breakout season pushed his value way higher. It was basically the same contract Dorian Finney-Smith accepted without hesitation. But by then, everything had changed. Brunson reportedly turned the deal down because he fully understood his market value now. He had become the clear second-best player on the roster, carried the team during stretches without Luka Doncic, and was already outperforming the contract Dallas kept trying to lock him into. The Mavericks had multiple chances to secure him early, and every time they waited, his value kept rising. But the moment that truly changed everything came during the 2022 NBA playoffs. Luka Doncic suffered a calf strain and missed the first 3 games of Dallas's opening round series against Utah, leaving the Mavericks desperate for someone to carry the offense. Brunson answered in a massive way. Across those first 3 games without Luka, he averaged 32 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists, while helping Dallas grab a 2-1 series lead. Then came Game 2, the night everything shifted. Brunson exploded for 41 points and shocked people all around the league. That performance completely changed the way teams viewed him moving forward. Suddenly, he wasn't just seen as a reliable secondary scorer anymore. He looked like somebody capable of leading an entire franchise. Even after Luka returned, Brunson never faded into the background. The 2 guards became one of the most dangerous offensive duos in the playoffs and pushed Dallas all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Across 18 playoff games, Brunson averaged 21.6 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Alongside Luka's 31.7 points per game, no playoff duo scored more that postseason. But more importantly, Brunson proved something to himself during that run. He showed he could run an offense as a primary scorer and playmaker instead of just playing in somebody else's shadow. He entered those playoffs viewed as a strong number 2 option. By the end of the run, he looked fully capable of becoming a true franchise lead guard. After seeing how dangerous Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic looked together, most people around the league assumed Brunson's staying in Dallas was basically guaranteed. That seemed to be the belief around the entire league, especially after Dallas made its deep playoff run. Mark Cuban even started talking publicly like the deal was already done. During an appearance on Bally Sports Southwest, Cuban casually mentioned, after re-signing JB, almost like Jalen Brunson's contract had already been handled behind closed doors. Cuban also kept reminding reporters that Dallas held Brunson's bird rights, which meant the Mavericks could go over the salary cap, offer him more years, and outpay any other team trying to steal him away. At one point, Cuban even posted publicly that the Mavericks could pay Brunson more than anybody else. Brunson reportedly saw the message, but internally, the reaction was described as complete silence. No excitement, no urgency, no movement, just crickets. While Dallas believed it still had control of the situation, things were already shifting fast behind the scenes. The Knicks had reportedly been quietly setting this up for months. Then, only 1 week after Dallas's season ended, Brunson's father, Rick Brunson, officially joined Tom Thibodeau's coaching staff in New York. That move instantly got people around the league talking. On paper, Dallas still looked like the favorite to keep Brunson. The Mavericks could offer more money and more years than anyone else. They also believed they had a backup plan if negotiations went sideways. According to reports, Mark Cuban thought a sign and trade could still happen, allowing Dallas to recover valuable assets like a first-round pick instead of losing Brunson for absolutely nothing. But that leverage disappeared fast. The Knicks then cleared another $19 million in salary by sending Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks to Detroit, along with draft compensation and cash considerations. At that point, New York's message was impossible to ignore. The Knicks were going all in to land Jalen Brunson. That same night, ESPN reported New York planned to offer Brunson a contract worth over $100 million across 4 years. Dallas still scheduled one final meeting in New York on June 30th, hoping there was still time to save the relationship. Technically, the Mavericks could have offered as much as $175 million over 5 years, plus the added benefit of Texas having no state income tax. That was supposed to be Dallas's ultimate advantage. The problem? The meeting never even happened. It got canceled completely, and afterward both sides reportedly blamed each other for how badly everything collapsed. But by then, the outcome already looked locked in. Jalen Brunson agreed to a 4-year, $104 million contract with the New York Knicks, nearly double the amount Dallas had hesitated to offer him just 1 year earlier. The entire situation quickly became one of the worst free agency losses the Mavericks had suffered in years. The NBA later investigated the Knicks over allegations of early discussions with Brunson's camp before free agency officially opened. New York ended up losing a second-round draft pick as punishment, but honestly, that barely mattered in the bigger picture. Brunson was already gone, and Dallas had no way to undo the damage. Mark Cuban's reaction afterward showed just how badly the Mavericks misread the entire situation. Speaking with ESPN, Cuban admitted, "Knowing the numbers now, I would have paid it in a heartbeat. But by then, it was way too late. Brunson had already moved on, and even after losing him, Dallas still seemed convinced it should have had the advantage the whole time." In later comments with NBA insider Mark Stein, Cuban explained that the Mavericks believed their history with Brunson would keep him in Dallas. They drafted him, developed him, and assumed that relationship would outweigh everything else. But Brunson reportedly saw it very differently. From his perspective, New York became the clear destination once the Knicks hired his father and aggressively created salary cap space before free agency even opened. To Brunson, that wasn't just recruiting. It showed commitment from the entire organization. That's what separated the Knicks from the Mavericks in the end. Dallas had multiple opportunities over the years to fully commit to Brunson, and every single time, hesitation got in the way. Now, just 3.5 years later, the Knicks and Mavericks look like two franchises moving in completely opposite directions. In New York, Jalen Brunson completely changed the energy around the franchise the second he arrived. Since joining the Knicks, New York has become one of the most consistent and competitive teams in the league. They've stacked multiple 45-plus win seasons along with several 50-win years, something Knicks fans hadn't seen in a very long time. Before Brunson showed up, New York had only managed one 45-win season between 2002 and 2022. They also won just a single playoff series during that entire 20-year stretch. Now everything feels different. The Knicks suddenly have multiple playoff series wins, back-to-back deep postseason runs, and real championship expectations every single season. Brunson became the centerpiece of the entire franchise. When the pressure gets heavy, he's the one controlling the game. His playoff numbers already place him among the top scorers ever through a player's first 50 postseason games with one franchise. He even passed Patrick Ewing by more than 300 points during that same stretch. But honestly, the biggest change wasn't just the stats. Brunson completely changed the mindset around the organization. The Knicks finally started believing they could compete at the highest level again. Meanwhile, over in Dallas, the fallout has been ugly. The Mavericks missed the playoffs the very same season Brunson walked out the door. The Mavericks did make it to the NBA Finals in 2024 behind Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, but that series against Boston never really felt close. The Celtics controlled most of it from beginning to end, and once Dallas lost, the franchise started entering a seriously strange era. Then everything got even crazier. Mark Cuban sold his majority ownership stake, and not long after that, Dallas shocked the entire basketball world by trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers in February 2025. The move instantly became one of the most controversial trades of the decade, with fans everywhere trying to figure out how the Mavericks let things spiral this far out of control. And the fallout hit Dallas immediately. Even after getting incredibly lucky and landing the #1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft to select Cooper Flagg, the Mavericks still collapsed to a brutal 26-56 record. Another front office shakeup followed soon after, with Nico Harrison getting fired in November as the organization once again searched for answers. Dallas missed the playoffs again. Frustration around the team kept growing, and suddenly the entire franchise looked unstable. But what makes this whole story stand out is how so much of it traces back to one long stretch of hesitation surrounding Jalen Brunson. Dallas didn't just lose a talented player, the Mavericks lost stability, they lost direction, and eventually they lost the core they believed would lead the franchise for years. Mark Cuban has since spoken openly about the Brunson situation. During an appearance on the Pablo Torre podcast, Cuban suggested the Knicks may have crossed lines connected to salary cap rules while pursuing Brunson, and argued the NBA's punishment wasn't harsh enough. Cuban said, "That's behind me. More power to JB, more power to everything. Was I happy that they only got dinged for a second-round pick? No. It should have been far worse, but it is what it is." But even with that explanation, the biggest issue still remains. Dallas had multiple opportunities to lock Brunson into a long-term deal way before free agency ever arrived. And every single time, they waited too long. Because the extension never happened early, Brunson entered his final season in Dallas with everything to prove. Then he exploded onto another level, raised his market value dramatically, and reached free agency with complete control over his future. Once that happened, New York wasted no time making him the centerpiece of its rebuild. Meanwhile, Dallas tried to regroup around what it believed would still be a long-term Luka Doncic era. But even that eventually fell apart too. Now, 3.5 years later, Brunson is leading the Knicks while New York's entire roster is built around him. Dallas, meanwhile, moved on from Brunson, later lost Luka, watched Cuban step away after selling the team, and has spent years trying to recover from one massive mistake after another. What looked like a relatively small contract decision back in 2021 has now turned into one of the biggest franchise-changing moments in recent NBA history. And honestly, the real cost for Dallas isn't just losing Jalen Brunson. It's losing everything the team could have become if they had fully committed to him early. Looking at what's happening in New York right now only makes that reality harder to ignore. As of May 2026, the Knicks are back in the Eastern Conference Finals with Brunson controlling every part of the offense. They look like legitimate favorites to reach their first NBA Finals in 27 years. And a massive reason is the way Brunson completely controls the flow of games from start to finish. Through their first 10 playoff games, New York has outscored opponents by 19.4 points per game, the best differential through 2 rounds in the modern 16-team playoff era. They also hold the highest point differential through 10 games of any postseason run in NBA history. Everything runs through Brunson. He controls the tempo, creates scoring opportunities in isolation, breaks down defenses, forces teams into nonstop adjustments, and keeps the offense organized on almost every possession. Nothing looks rushed when he's running the floor. Every decision feels controlled and calculated. Now the Knicks sit just 8 wins away from their first championship since 1973. And that's exactly why New York targeted Brunson in the first place. When you compare that to where Dallas ended up, the contrast is impossible to ignore. This is the same player Mark Cuban reportedly questioned on draft night back in 2018, the same player Dallas hesitated to pay in 2022. And now, in May 2026, that exact same player is leading a franchise that's chasing its first title in over 50 years. Every road in this story keeps leading back to the same decision. Dallas had Jalen Brunson in the building for years. They drafted him, watched him improve season after season, saw how dangerous he became next to Luka Doncic, and still passed on multiple opportunities to fully commit to him. That's what makes this whole situation look so wild in hindsight. Missing on Brunson didn't just cost the Mavericks a talented guard. It changed the entire direction of the franchise. New York gained a leader, a closer, and the centerpiece of a real championship contender. Meanwhile, Dallas has spent the last few years trying to rebuild its identity while dealing with roster changes, front office resets, and nonstop uncertainty about the future. And now the pressure shifts completely to New York. The Knicks are closer to a championship than they've been in decades, with Brunson leading the charge every single night. The city believes again. The team believes again. And the rest of the league is paying attention to what this group is building right now. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Brunson and the Knicks finally finish the job this season, or does another team stop them before they reach the top? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate is only getting louder as the playoffs continue. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Ball Stories for more NBA breakdowns, deep dives, and franchise-changing stories every single week. We've got more videos coming on the biggest trades, rivalries, playoff moments, and controversial decisions across the league, so stay locked in. Also, check out one of the videos popping up on your screen right now because there's a good chance you'll enjoy that one too. Peace.